one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening. Thanks for coming. Here we are. We're going to get right to it. I'm going to turn the dog hearing over to Charlie Konicki, who will take over at this point. We have a dog hearing for 26 Pequot Road. Charlie, you're on.
Both parties, you want to get closer, sit down in front here. Stand and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. In case anything goes into litigation, that's why we're doing this. I'm going to read the complaint, and I'm going to do this in the form of the history as it went along. The complaint is Tara and James Vermette. The owner is Teresa and Richard Lemire. Lemley? Boy, am I sorry, guys. My understanding is that the dogs are in the process of being licensed this year, that paperwork's been sent in.
They just got licensed yesterday, I believe. Effective April 1st, if I remember.
They were licensed last year.
Through this April?
Yes.
Okay, because the information we got was said they're just got licensed, it's not effective till April 1st. So
Make sure you have
Okay.
I'll check it if you want.
I mean, what I have is, it says the 3 dogs at the address were last registered in 2013, and that presently they've just received the applications to be licensed. Right.
Yeah, but they were in 2015 also.
Okay, well, then there's discrepancy here somewhere down the line. Let's see, correspondence, letters sent, so on and so forth. Past history. February 11th, 2016, leash law violation, jumped on 3-year-old in complainant's yard during a family picnic. March 20th, 2013, complainant, Sheen Hamill, 112 White Loaf Road, leash law violation, knocked over trash in complainant's garage, goes after his dog. April 20th, 2010, complainant, Sheen Hamill, 112 White Loaf Road, 3 dogs on property daily, creating damage in the garden, charged complaints with his dog. No result after speaking to owner. Police logs. February 9th, 2016, Westfield Animal Control reported they had received an email complaint regarding loose dogs. January 29th, 2016, Westfield Animal Control reported they had received an email complaint regarding loose dogs. August 5th, 2013, dogs lunged at Sheen Hamill in Hamill's yard, which is a repeat of this, evidently. And March 19th, 2013, dogs in Hamill's garage going after trash, is a repeat. The town's response. In March 2013, a warning letter was sent citing vicious disposition, annoyance, and a threat to a person or his property, leash law violation. March 23rd, 2010, notice sent to leash law violation, was ordered to restrain your dogs, such nuisance. Well, we certainly have a history. Are these the same 3 dogs? Can you describe these dogs?
We just need whoever's speaking to be at the podium, though, so those at home can hear.
Somebody needs to get up at the podium about the dogs, so they need the microphone.
Or you can both go up if,
Yeah.
you can both go up if you want.
The current complaint basically is the same pattern. How many dogs are we talking about that you own?
3
What kind of dogs are they?
shepherds.
Colorish?
I'm sorry?
What's their color makeup about?
Black and tan.
Black and tan? Okay.
Can I ask a question? It says here, this is from Terry and Rich Lemley, believes they have 4 dogs. Do you have 4 dogs or 3? 3? Okay, thanks.
Well, let's switch this now. You're the complainant. Would you please go up to the microphone?
Okay.
Hold the microphone down. Get comfortable. We get more critics telling us that they can't hear what's going on with the television, so.
Okay. How do
Can
we know
you-
it's working? We're good? Working.
You're working.
Excellent. Okay.
Can you explain to us the last episode, what occurred?
The last episode, well, basically, I had contacted the dog officer on the 28th of January. I had contacted her prior, last July, when I had the incident where one of the shepherds jumped on my nephew. And I hadn't gotten a response. I was a bit out of sorts the last few months just because I was pregnant and not even focused on worrying and looking out the window. But the last incident, basically, the dogs just come in and out of the yard, urinating, defecating on the property. For out there, all of a sudden, they appear out of nowhere. They have not shown any vicious disposition to me or to my husband, but it is scary when there's a dog all of a sudden appearing out of nowhere, and they're not small German shepherds. So it was just them coming through the yard and urinating and defecating on our property was the last incident.
So basically, they're running at large.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question? One party's at 24 and one party's at 26. Is there a house in between?
I'm at 26. The 24 is just open property right now.
Okay, so they're
There's
not
no
running
there's no
across
house.
somebody's yard. Okay.
Yeah, but they go through my property, 26, and they actually go into my parents' properties, 28, is right next door.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Any comments you want to give?
other than, I sent them a letter in July of 2013, just letting them know we were building a house. We were aware of the dogs roaming freely, because they had done that prior to us building our house there, and asking them to please contain their dogs. We had a German Shepherd at the time, and then I've sent reminder emails, hey, your dog is in the yard. I've done that no less than 5 times. Prior to that, there's some instances where I would just yell at the dogs, go home, that I didn't even, email just because I didn't have the time to. And I usually get a response that it's either, it's probably the kids that let them out. They're over 16, they're driving. It's not like they're 8. So it's just, it's an annoyance more than anything. And I have a little girl now, and I just don't want her to be outside playing, and all of a sudden their dog appears out of nowhere. And having one of them jumped on my 3-year-old nephew, it's scary. And I don't want an incident. Because I love German Shepherds, they're actually my favorite breed, but dogs are unpredictable.
Okay. Unless you have questions?
I guess my question is for, make sure I get the right one, Lemelins? Why,
Wait a minute.
after,
Let them finish, and then, is there any questions for her?
so now you're getting specific.
Right.
That's
Well,
okay.
well, I don't want to be playing
Well,
games here.
let me ask it backwards. After you've talked to the other party, have they said they would hold them
Yes,
inside?
usually Terry
or-
was very good. She replied back via email, either the kids let him out, or my husband accidentally let him out, or, we'll keep a closer eye on them. I was always reassured, but they still
They
kept
keep
coming
coming
over.
out? Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Would you two please take the podium? You've heard the complaint, you've heard the history. Can you explain to us how you plan on dealing with this?
You can answer me. They've never been on a leash. I know that's not an excuse or anything, but my dog's trained for personal protection, so when he comes to work with me, he's never on a leash. And I guess now at the house, I'm gonna have to put him on a leash because he's the male is the one that, the pup, since her last incident, we've been working, we've been training them to stay in the yard, and they've been pretty good, but I've been having a issue with my male. And so he's getting older, so I guess I'm gonna have to put him on a leash.
I'm saying, or invisible fence or something to that.
I mean, I'm looking at a pattern here
Yeah.
of this going off and on, and then from 2013 to today, it was quiet, and then it started up again.
Yeah, I went away for work. I was working in St. Louis, and I was gone for long periods of time, and he's with me all the time. So I had a little separation anxiety thing going on where he actually tore the inside of our house a little bit from me being away, or not tore, but peed and pooped
I understand.
inside the house. So it was a separation anxiety thing, but now that I'm back home, I'm not going to St. Louis anymore, so hopefully that all goes away. But, I mean, we've been doing our hardest to keep an eye on him and everything, but like every once in a while, he does get away from me, and that is my fault.
Any questions?
Yeah, I guess what I'm concerned with, the dogs haven't been, according to this, the clerk, haven't been registered since 13.
Which isn't true. I didn't bring the license because I thought it would be on file and that would have already been investigated. But the dog officer asked if they were registered and we told her they were.
Heather,
So,
where do we get this information from?
We get all the information pertaining to dog licensing from the town clerk. Velda, my assistant, actually goes in, sits with the town clerk, and they look up past records. So whatever information they have there is directly from the clerk's office.
So it's what we have on record then? Okay. And it says new registration's not going into effect till April 1st. I know I've got 2 dogs myself, and I keep them on leashes because otherwise they'd run off. Of course, my dogs are this big. Yours are a little bigger.
Well, this opens up a very interesting question as to what do we do? We, as the board, have a lot of authority to do a lot of different issues, but I would like to hear from the complainants as to what they would like to see.
I'd like to see a fence, because I understand that you have the dogs off leash. and
All right, you're going to need to get to that microphone.
I would like a fence, because if you want to have your dogs loose, which is your prerogative, but if you can't control them, you're not going to have them under your sight at all times. It's not safe for the dogs, and it's not safe for the neighborhood. So, either that or keep them on a leash at all times, but it doesn't seem to be a possibility.
Or
Whatever works. I worry about the invisible fences, getting on the other side and trying to get back and choke call. I don't like that idea, but it's your choice. I just don't want them on the property, so I would think a fence.
Apparently not, you sound like you are. Just a question, and I hate to say that, boy, we're going to impose a fence on you, that's a big thing and a big expense and all that stuff. I mean, a run or something like that, that would contain.
Well, yeah, if they use it,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, my thought.
If you got 3 dogs, you
Right.
can have them all at the same time, or, well, I guess that logistics doesn't matter to me, but
I
a
guess,
run would be fine.
there is Shannon down there, right?
Yeah.
comment on the not watching them,
Yeah.
because we do watch them, but our property doesn't have a lot of side room, and there's woods on the side.
Yeah.
So they'll go to the bathroom, and unfortunately, the older one that my husband was talking about is like 10, and he's losing his hearing. And so we, even though if it's dark, and we don't have a flashlight when we're out there, and we call him, and he can't hear us, it's woods between our properties. So when Tara said they pop out, our houses are equal, and so there's woods in between. So if they go in there, to go to the bathroom in the woods, and they pop out, they're right at their back door. So it's not, so
Who owns the
just so
woods
you
in
can
between?
look at-
You own the woods in
We own
between?
part of it,
Yeah, or my parents own the other,
So you're,
the 26 that you were, or the, yeah, the.
so they're going off your property, maybe,
well, part of the woods is ours.
right, but they gotta go through it.
So it's like, in between, maybe 3 feet into the woods is ours.
I guess from my point of view was, this is just me, there's 4 others, what are you saying that? 4 others, I would say from this point on that you've got to have them secured in some way, and that if you're not, then automatically when she issues a complaint with the police again, we take a stricter stance on it. But I can't see making you put up a whole fence around your yard and spend $5,000. if we can be solved in other ways.
Can I just note that most of the times when I do see the dogs coming in, they're not coming from your property, they're coming from my parents, meaning
Right.
they were all the way over there.
Oh, I agree.
And they're coming back through,
I
so. it's
personally,
not
I'd
just-
put runs up or something that you can just let them go on your property and go 50 feet out. I mean, if you got trees,
fine.
hook it to there, and
Yeah, that would be
that's
fine.
my opinion, but.
Are the dogs only outside when you're home, or do you let them out for the day and then come back at 5 o'clock and they've been out all day?
You gotta stay in front of that microphone. I'm sorry. It's a recorded meeting, and if you're not in front of the mic, it doesn't get
I
recorded.
understand. 2 of them go to work with me, but like I said, I have 2 jobs, basically. I have a car wash, and then I had my full-time job. But when I was working for my full-time job, they were home inside the house. They were never out by themselves. The only time they're out is like when the kids let them out when they get home from school, or we let them out at night to go, and basically they're out to go to the bathroom. And,
So
but
your
the other
home is
2,
just not necessarily someone's out with them, is what you're
we're
saying?
always out with them, yeah.
Somebody's always outside when they're outside?
Yep.
But they're loose, they're running loose. You don't have them on a leash while they're,
Don't have them,
Right.
no.
And that's how
They've
they get
never
away.
been on a leash, but,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And Oris and Ivan, the 2 males go to work with me now. And Oris always went to the car wash to work with me, so on the weekends, they're always at work with me. And now that's going to be my full-time job, so they're always with us. They're always with somebody. They're not out alone.
Can somebody tell me what the bylaw says about repeat offenses with the leash law?
I don't have a copy of the bylaw.
Is it by any chance in that folder I gave you attached, the letter that
I'm
we
only
sent?
asking because although it's great to stand here and say, you know, we're going to keep our dogs under control, we're not going to let them roam, I'd like to see a fence. What do we do, you know, in 2 months when the dogs are out and they jump on the kid again? And then where does the board go from there? Because you can have this conversation, but if there's not a consequence that we know about, then really we're just talking about some dogs running around and not doing anything about it.
Well, the consequence right now is the fact that the dogs are running unleashed, so they're running at large, and that's a violation of the bylaw.
Right, and so what happens, because, what is the violation? What is the consequence to the dog owner?
The consequence is a filing in criminal court that the dogs are running at large, violating the bylaw, and the fine that's attached to that.
Okay. Okay.
My hope was to find an amicable solution between both parties and not instruct the police chief to bring criminal charges.
Okay.
So are you saying there's a leash law, like even on your own property, you're supposed to have your dog on a leash?
My understanding of leash law says off your property, not
Off
on
the
your
property, exactly, okay.
Yeah, but it's been demonstrated numerous times that the dog has been off your property, or the dogs have been off
I
your property.
understand that.
The good part about this is it doesn't state that they feel the dogs are vicious.
I have a letter from the Ware Police Department because my dogs are not leashed when, at the car wash, and they're around people all the time. So if there's a issue with their demeanor or whatever, I got a letter from the police department in Ware because they're around the dogs also,
Excuse me.
so.
I'd like to, hello, good evening. I'd like to address I know, I've had animals before, and they never hurt anybody, but we don't believe they will, but in cases, sometimes they will mistakenly do that, and my husband's a runner, and he has been attacked by dogs 3 times now, leaving massive bruises on his legs. And every owner said, well, my dog was just protecting me, and he would never have done that if you didn't run by. You know, it's a city street, and the dog isn't vicious, but it's just his instincts to go after somebody. He doesn't know that my husband's not going to hurt his owner. And so what I'm getting at is you are putting yourself in jeopardy if they turn around, if one of your dogs hurts their children, grandchildren, then it'll cost you a lot more than a fine from the city, from the town. You know what I mean? And then you don't want to get rid of your dog, you want to keep your dog. So it seems to me the best solution is to get a runner,
No, I understand that,
you know?
yeah,
Nobody's saying your dog is bad.
right.
He's just, just being a dog, and
And then just looking at it on the other side, if you keep the dog in your yard, what are the odds that it's going to get mauled by another animal?
Yeah.
Slim to none if you're right there watching it and it's in your backyard. You know, if it's in those woods that abut the properties, who knows if that dog will come back? And it can't hear you calling. You know, look at it as you're protecting yourself, you're protecting the dogs.
Okay, so I guess I'd make a motion that we, after this discussion, you obviously know you've got to keep your dogs contained, and if you don't, and it happens again, you call the police, issue a complaint, and we'll bring it right back here quickly? Was that, well, that's a motion, first of all, I need a second.
The motion's choppy.
I don't understand.
Whoa,
It was avid try, John. Do it
It's-
again.
wow. I would make a,
Right.
I'd make a, let me try this. I'll make a motion to close the dog hearing at this point, given the conversation that has occurred tonight. So let me make that motion.
I'll second that.
I personally think that was a little choppy too, but that's me. No, I'm just kidding. That's fine.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor to close the dog hearing.
I would like to make a motion.
First, you need to vote on
You
that
need to
motion.
vote, Charlie.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I would then like to say to the complainant, if this happens again, the next thing you do is call the police department, and the owners of the dog need to know that the Board of Selectmen at that point will take immediate criminal action in order to ensure that this doesn't happen anymore and that people are safe.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second that. Go, Heather.
Any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor for the Board of Selectmen to take immediate criminal action if there are any other complaints involving the dogs.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess this is like the third dog hearing we've had in the last 2 months, and we've said the same thing to those folks, and knock on wood, it seemed to have worked, so hopefully it does. I mean, nobody's got any vicious,
Well, nobody
Yeah.
wants to go to court and have to
well,
plead guilty,
yeah.
not guilty, and explain to the
yeah.
magistrate.
But also, we don't want to start a neighborhood fight. Hopefully, this gets settled and, everything's all set. So, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Town Administrator report? We got a full room, so you better make it quick.
It's always too bad when that happens, But they brought it to the right place.
Hi. Safe Routes to School, our update on this, so far we're about 50% through the certificates of donations. We've met with or spoke with all of the abutters at this point. We are waiting to have Mass DOT help us work on getting the paperwork we need from Cumberland Farms. Because they're a corporation, they seem to want to do things their way instead of what we need to have done. So Mass DOT is helping us with that. We mailed letters last week to any of the abutters we've met with that were waiting on certificates of donation. We're hoping to have this all wrapped up by March 22nd at the next board meeting for you guys to vote to accept the certs of donations.
How many are left?
Well, I have 50%, so there's 12 total, 6 are done. Any other questions on the Safe Routes to School project? I did talk to Matt Christie last night from the Board of Water Commissioners. And when we spoke last night at their budget meeting, he actually mentioned that the state is working with them on the water main lines that are underneath Route 10 in that section, and to help fund the project.
Good.
Budgeting update, so this past Monday, we met with the Water Department. Next Monday will be the transfer station, the Highway Department over at the Highway Garage. It'd be great if we could have a member of the Board of Selectmen present. The meeting for the budget piece starts at 6. I still, at this point, have not received the Board of Health's budget. So the meeting with the Board of Health and the Board of Assessors is before the Finance team on March 21st. Payrolls and timesheets. So at a couple meetings, and Charlie, I don't know if you can remember which one we had this conversation on. I want to say it was a Finance team meeting at some point.
Yeah, that's
we
where it
were-
started.
We were discussing all the different ways that people submit payroll and paper timesheets and all the information, how it gets processed numerous times. Everyone touches the paper before it actually goes through. What we talked about at the time was to look into what our options were. We actually sent out a message on the listserv to see if we could hear back from folks on what solutions other people use when they have the software that's called SoftWrite, which we use for our accounting system. Folks got back to us and said they use Time Clock. It's a company that actually runs, they provide many different options, whether it's, people logging in, whether it's tracking the different types of pay. I'm working a regular day, I'm working overtime, I'm working under the water department, I'm logging in at second shift time, so the differential applies. All these different things that take a lot of the thought process out of things and simply just reviewing at the end of the day instead of having to worry about getting it all in. It also allows people to put in for vacation time and everything else. We are currently looking just to get a proposal from them because I was asked to do so. At this point, what we're looking at is they do a one-time setup fee of $5,000, which means they come in and they transfer all of our information into their system. So if the highway department has 6 different account lines that they use for wages, they upload all of them and they program them so that you are good to go. So that you are good to go in order to move forward with linking them correctly. It also upgrades all the abilities so you have people in the different departments, different managerial rights, different options with vacation, personal sick time. It loads people's balances so that you actually have a logging balance, a personal sick time, etc., and keeps it all in one site. One of the nice things is it also offers various reports, so you can print out at any time an employee timesheet page. You can also print out other things, the summary of the whole department and the like. When going back to this, so we said it's a one-time setup fee for $5,000. The one thing they're looking into for us is to double-check and make sure and figure out how it would be able to actually be synced with SoftWrite. It's my understanding that although they say it's compatible, I don't know if any communities have currently done this. There are numerous communities who are very interested in this program and the options that this provides.
Is there an annual fee?
The only annual fee actually comes down to the number of employees. So it's a $30 cost per year per employee that uses the system. As far as the time clock that you use, you have multiple options. You can have people logging themselves in on their computers. You can have people logging themselves in with a time card. The most expensive option they have to purchase the product is a $2,500 expense, and that's a time clock that's biometric with your thumbprint.
So you say $30 per year per employee?
Yes, so right now, if we
Employees are we
look at
talking
about
about?
approximately 100 employees that would affect, it would be a $3,000 annual cost. And we'd have to do out the math, and, we'd probably even want to test drive it a little bit or see what we could figure out, because ultimately, if it saves people, 8 hours every 2 weeks for the larger departments with processing and entering in all the information, you figure out their wages, because these are the department heads who are usually entering the info in, multiply it by the 8 hours, by the multiple department heads, by 26 weeks a year, you're going to come to that as a savings easily.
Do they allow for updating of earned time on a
Yeah,
regular basis?
you can update that all, you can customize it, so some have comp time, sick time, whatever time you need to put in there, you can do. One of the cool things is, like I said, let's just go with the system I like, which is the biometrics one, which is nice because it builds in the future for fraud prevention, so you have to log in. If you are an hourly employee, you can't have someone pin in for you or any other means. And one of the nice things is that when they log in, they can actually say, okay, I'm here under highway time. I'm here as, it's the weekend hours. I'm going to do a water job.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So the fire chief's sitting right here, so I'm going to use him as an example. If you're trying to save that money in, saying the fire chief spends 8 hours a week times 52 hours, or 52 weeks a year, if he's salary, we're not going to take that money away from him for doing that, so how are you saving any money? If you had an hourly employee doing it, then you could say, okay, well, that job, what is the word I'm looking for?
It's gonna be a
that job
savings.
duty isn't yours anymore. So there you might save money, but how are you saving that from an hourly employee? How are you
So-
saving that from a salaried employee?
So I use the idea of the department heads. It's not most of the department heads who are entering the payroll. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the deputy fire chief who enters the payroll? Rich? So you have an hourly employee who's doing a decent amount of the work. You have an hourly employee at the highway department, the administrative person who's doing the work.
I was going to say, just using the example of the fire chief, if you save 4 hours of his time or 8 hours of the police chief's time, that's administrative work. They can be doing something a lot more important than putting in time. That's how I would look at that.
Right, and have you asked department heads what they think about it?
We simply have got to the point where we look to see that this exists, because I was asked to look into it by a board member, so I did so. As far as we've got today on this whole process, we simply looked up the costs, so going to the, I think I covered the 3 costs, so it's a one-time setup fee, it's an annual cost, and then it's a cost per system. The only one I think I've talked to at all, because he came in after the conference call, was the police chief, and he actually doesn't have any objections to it. That it would be a nice idea. Like anything else, it's change. People don't always like change. It's not an easy transition, what have you. Question really comes down to is it needs to be analyzed more and further to see, will this actually save us time? Will it be a better system keeping? And is it something we can grow with and have better records and quicker records and more accurate documentation on things?
How does this feed into the payroll?
So they're working on calling SoftWrite themselves to confirm that A, it is compatible 100%, and B, how it would work. My understanding is it would be some kind of Excel sheet that they would export, and then you would import it into SoftWrite.
So we'd have to do that manually? Like,
Well, I think even if you do it manually, you'd click on the right-hand side, say export.
Yeah.
The whole thing goes into export, and then you import it into SoftWrite. So again, we're only in the exploratory, what exists, this is what's out there. There's been no feedback, no comments, no anything. I simply got the information.
Okay,
She just said what I was going to say.
right.
yeah, and I think it's a great thing to look into myself.
Okay, other things. Board of Selectmen minutes, Kate is no longer able to continue joining us on Board of Selectmen minutes. We are looking at someone else who's interested, and she'll be here next week just to check it out. If anyone's watching at home and would be interested in talking to me about potentially being on a rotating list for doing minutes for the Board of Selectmen, please let me know. There is a process and there is training that goes with it. Let's see where else we have here. Computers. We've had a lot of Outlook issues this week. Vicki can attest to that.
Pardon?
So we've had just underlying behind-the-scenes stuff. We've had several power surges the past couple weeks with Eversource. We actually had the website go down on us because we weren't alerted by them that we were out of data usage. So we got both of those things up and fixed. In the meantime, we had a couple Outlook 2013 issues with various computers. The issues were all over the course. Everyone is set now except Vicki. So we are working on that, and we'll hope to get that up and running tomorrow. We're going to try to do it without losing too much of her data in the process, is the goal. Let's see what else we have here. New computers, the last of my computers en route, they tell me, which is nice since mine crashed a couple times, especially during the power surges. We have a laptop, which we got on sale at Amazon, so now we can type minutes in the 21st century instead of the old computer on the XP, which is very nice. Tomorrow, Cook County Road, we are doing a strategic meeting for those who have been invited and key players. If the board's interested, I'll let you know when that is, but essentially we're looking at our grant options in the project. This is, again, the project that goes over the Barnes Aquifer, which is the water that is used by the city of Easthampton and sometimes used by the town of Southampton. And the idea that the property is being sold and the option is out there for us to participate in the purchasing and protecting of the property. Any questions on that one? No. I think Charlie's said he'd go.
Charlie's going to try to make it, but Charlie has his capital meeting at 6 also.
He can't be every place at
I'm
once.
telling you, for the only guy that doesn't punch a time clock.
So if anyone else is interested, I do have a well, I reached out to the water department. I know I have someone from Concom going. This is strictly just the municipal officials of Southampton and Easthampton sitting at the table to see what we can do with paperwork. Door-to-door solicitation, something we're looking into. It's come up a couple times. It came up once, or probably twice at this point, from the police department side. It's also come up once in discussions with Tom Cohen of the Charter Communications, which is our cable company, when looking at the cable ascertainment hearing and the contracts moving forward into the next cycle. They're interested in doing that. We currently have a bylaw that prohibits solicitation door-to-door of commercial or not nonprofit. So anything that's for-profit right now, we prohibit. And we are looking into see that if the prior decisions of town council back in 2003 still stand today. So case law does change over time, and we have not double-checked that one. Any questions on that? Okay. Upcoming, we do have a charter hearing next week, or in 2 weeks rather, next meeting, which is March 22nd. The charter cable ascertainment hearing begins at 6 o'clock. Information for that's available on the website. We also have a survey on SurveyMonkey for anyone at home who's interested. What we are really trying to obtain here is people's interest level in the community access television providing additional programming. So whether it's covering more government meetings, whether it's covering community events, school events, sporting events, etc., we need to hear from people and residents in the town that they are interested in doing this in order to provide this information to Charter.
People need to realize that this contract's going to be 5 to 10 years. So whatever they give for input now, they're not going to be able to for a few years. So it's imperative that they participate this time around.
All good on that? Okay. Procurement, still working on the handrails. HVAC is still underway. We've been working with the library in that piece. Collective bargaining agreement for the highway contract is ready to go. We're just trying to type up the changes in the prior document, and that is being done by the highway department. Community compact cabinet. If you remember the grants we've been talking about for the government for the past several months, our first one is underway, and that is the study for the operations and organizational study of the fire and ambulance services for the town. We've been working with Travis. Travis so far has met with myself, Charlie, the fire chief, and he will be reaching out to the rest of the board members in the next few days. You will receive a text message from him. His first area code is 817. If you get it, please respond. Let's see, other doings, just FYIs. Greenway Negotiation Committee has been 2 to 3 times a week lately with meetings and conference calls. We're working on meeting with different vendors tomorrow and doing a townwide printer. Right now we have RICO, and the contract is up for most of the departments. Board Committee Commission representative meeting is tomorrow night. The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has a roundtable on finances on Thursday that I'll be at. We have various budget meetings, and the last piece I won't go into too much because Charlie will probably touch on liaison reports, is Agricultural Commission is back up and running. Comments, questions, or concerns for me?
I have a comment, question. I'm not sure if this is where to insert it, but I'm going to, because the other day, last night or day before, and the police chief's here too, I got a voicemail, recorded voicemail saying that there's some break-ins around town and the surrounding towns.
Code red.
Code red. So that was a great thing to do. And matter of fact, I went home and told my wife, she says, just last week, this car pulled in the circle, stopped there, left after a few minutes, came back about a half hour later. I says, from my point of view, the police would rather you dial 911 and say, there's a car, here's the license plate number. So I think that was a great message to get. But my question is, how many people are on the code red versus how many people could be? Because there's a lot of people out there who probably didn't hear this.
So people can opt in on code red when they sign up to be just emergency notifications, or they can add general.
Okay.
On this one, we sent it out as a general notification. I kind of toyed with both ideas for a little bit. We actually, when the police chief, where are you? When he does his report in a little bit, I'm sure he can cover what response he's been getting.
Okay.
Between his Facebook page, the town's Facebook page, and the Code Red, we seem to have got a decent response of people being reactive.
Okay, so that's, I mean, it's a great thing. I want to make sure everybody knows about it.
Anything else for me?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Liaison reports? Anybody?
The negotiating committee, Heather already updated on, so I don't have to go into that.
I don't know if I'm liaison to the agricultural committee, but I'm on the agricultural committee, so it's forming. Tommy Bishis is chair, Claudia Lucas is vice chair. I ended up being clerk. We're going to put together the first minutes of our formation. We are gathering information from other towns as to how they're presenting agriculture in their communities and starting to build a strategy of how many farms do we actually have in town. There is no master list. So that is going to be one of the things that we're going to have to try to develop is a master list of agriculture in Southampton. And agriculture is everything from cows to horses to vegetables, you know, chickens, you name it. So it's quite a broad scope. So that's being worked on. The other thing that I'm working with in the background is putting together the Public Safety Building Committee roles and responsibilities. It's a rough draft right now. I sent it out to department heads to see if there'd be any feedback. And I'm hoping Heather can get together with me and we can roll it out for March 22nd and get it moving.
Okay. Ladies?
I went to the Finance Committee meeting last night, and we went over the budgets for the Water Department, and they had some recommendations to the superintendent about his salary and being a 4% raise as compared to a 2%, which most of the other employees have received in town.
Is that what they put in for his budget going forward?
Yes, and, well, it was suggested that they wanted the 4%. So they also recommended that he had miscellaneous areas in here, and they wanted it to be more detailed. But other than that, it was well done. Regarding the Nilda, I had talked to her, the zoning board, and she has nothing now, but they will be starting up soon again. And I talked to Virginia, who was here today from the Community Preservation, and she wanted to say some words.
I don't think Heather touched on the one thing that we're working on.
Okay.
Mrs. Ahart, would you mind? Thanks.
I'm trying to get out and going.
Oh, come on, we want to hear you
That's
talk.
why. Heather, did we ever look at the handheld mic? And
We don't have one yet.
that I saw.
Okay. So Mrs. Ahart, go ahead.
Heather touched on the big thing that we're working on, which is the land with the aquifer, working with Easthampton, and community preservation right now is just waiting for a formal project to come in. We've been at this for quite a while, but we've had no real formal. And we'll have a few smaller items for the annual town meeting. Nothing exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other liaison reports? Okay, Vicki, you're up. We're going to hear from Vicki to talk about the budget for fiscal 16. Hi, Randall. Which is over soon, in June.
I have lots of work to do between now and then. So I guess, how to start this? Okay, so basically, I've had a few things come through my office that we were billed for and we were expected to pay for, but we don't know where they were going to come from.
Like what?
Like the bill that we got for, the bill that we got for the Western Mass Police Chiefs Association for the hiring of the police chief. you guys voted that you decided you wanted to do this, but nowhere did you vote or say where the money was going to come from. And, Heather ended up going to the reserve fund after the fact, which I don't think is very good practice.
How much was that, Bill?
$2,900.
Okay.
And so I guess I'm just trying to get away from doing that in the future. One of the other bills that came up was Code Red. We do get part of it from a grant, but the other part, where is the money going to come from to pay for the rest of it? It
How
could
much is
come.
the other part?
I don't have it in front of me. It's like $2,400 maybe. I don't know off the top of my head. But, the piece of it is it potentially could come from Don Snyder's emergency management line item, but we don't know that for a fact. And so if he had spent it all and no one said to him, hey, you need to pay for the rest of this, now what are we going to do? We keep talking about we don't have any money, but yet again, you're spending money that we didn't know where it was coming from to begin with. And I guess that just concerns me. So I'm putting it out there and, because if there is not enough money at the end to transfer from one line to the next, we're stuck. And as it has been over the past couple years, mainly last year, when we had more expenses than we had revenues come in at the end of the year by the tune of $219,000, that's why you only had $222,000 in your free cash. Plain and simple.
Right. So let me I think we talked about the police chief stuff, you and I had said, I guess I didn't think about how, I thought it was a courtesy that they were helping us. I didn't realize that there was a bill involved, so shame on me, and I guess shame on us for not having that conversation. And going forward, we need to really talk about that stuff because, where is the Code Red coming from and how are we paying for the police chief? And, it just goes back to the time clock where it's all well and good, but where's the money coming from? Because we can't sit here and tell everybody else that they don't have any money and then spend it ourselves, so.
Well, I guess I gotta say, if spending some money makes us money and more efficient, I guess that's the return on investment we
Okay,
have to figure out.
But I guess you need to figure out where it's going to come from
To Vicky's
first.
point,
No,
right, to
I
Vicky's
agree.
point, we
I don't-
can't send, reprimand others for doing that and not ourselves,
Yeah.
so.
So I guess that's where I'm coming from. And so I guess the point of having the reserve fund is to go ahead of time to say, look, I'm going to have this unexpected expense, not spend it and then go to them and say, hey, because if they say no, they could say no because they might not deem it unexpected and unforeseen if you already went ahead and did it before you actually asked them for the money.
So then let me ask you this.
That's how the process, that's how the accounting piece should work.
How
So,
much money is left in the reserve fund now?
well, there's enough money in there. Right now, the total is in there, 17.3, because I haven't
17.3.
actually done the transfer for that.
Okay.
So,
17.3 before the 2,900.
yes.
None was spent up to this
No,
point, right?
they did give a transfer to the Board of Health because
They
they
got it
didn't
back.
get the money for the Sharps program because they applied for the grant and they didn't get the money. Finance Committee wanted that money back.
Yeah.
Okay.
For whatever reason. But again, the same thing has happened. We wanted to be very careful and not balance our budget with free cash and stabilization. But we've been piecemealing it over the year through our town meetings. And we can't keep doing that. We don't want to balance our budget with 50 grand, but yet we take 10 here, we take 5 here, we take 6 here. It still adds up to the same thing. You're just not using the budget that you were given. And obviously, there are unforeseen things that could have happened, but, you can't say we're not going to use it and do it and balance our budget with it, but then take it throughout the year when...
Do you see other areas of trouble, Vicki, before?
Not in individual line items per se. Once we post the payroll that you guys are going to sign tonight, we'll post that tomorrow, and then I will go through the wage line items to make sure that there are enough monies for particular lines, because we've had some turnover, we've had temporary emergency employees in some of those lines, and so I want to kind of get a good guesstimate of someone's going to be short $500, someone's going to be short $1,000.
And you'll have a
that kind
better
of thing.
feel about that?
Once we do that, I wanted to wait till this payroll is posted since we were this close.
Okay.
I've got to say, from the expenses as of February 15th, I'm looking at here, we seem to be, for 98% of the line items, in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
So that means people are sticking to their budgets closely as much as possible.
So, I mean, yeah, that's just a concern that came across, and, and it's, I don't know, it's not an easy subject, but
And the auditors are here, have been here, were here.
they were here. We are still working on some final pieces for them, talking over email when it can work, and the phone, and trying to get them those last little pieces that they're looking at. Because we have to do government-wide financial statements, because we opted to do that, whatever, a year and a half ago, and do the fixed asset piece, we now need to, which I'm in the process of compiling what would our liability be at the end of the year to, if we had to pay out any vacation, sick, and personal, which we don't pay out sick time, but any vacation time that we might have to account for, they're going to look at the materiality of it and see if we actually have to account for it. Now, the piece I don't have an answer to that I need to talk to Tanya about is, do we need to account for that time, which I know that we're in the middle of changing the personnel bylaws, but at this point in time, as of 6/30/15, we didn't. And so do we need to put money on our books for all those people who we would have had to pay their vacation for the next year, which could be a big number, and they might make us do that.
Okay.
So that
When do
could be
we usually meet with them to have that?
as soon as we get they're done with their analysis and they get all the information, I will do it as soon as we possibly can.
Okay.
So-
Questions for Vicki? Jackie, do you have questions? I know you asked for some information yesterday. Was it clear? Did you get everything you're looking for?
Yes. I also wanted to point out that the debt service and the water department budget, the principal and the interest, that she's going to be looking at that, right, the town treasurer, about arranging those interest rates so that we can lower them. Donna?
Yeah, we have two loans that are straight loans, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's like a mortgage. One is at 5.6% and one's at 5.3%, and one's 35 years and one's 38 years. And it was almost $1 million combined. One was 600 and some odd thousand, and one was 400 and some odd thousand. And the water department asked, and they're going to work with Donna on trying to see if we can potentially refinance those and make the term shorter, because they know in the future that there is going to be projects that they will need to borrow again for. And you just have too much debt and they just can't carry it all.
Right, so Donna was going to work on that.
Donna was going to work on that with them yet, but I did mention that to them because I looked at it and it looked kind of like, well, why wouldn't you do it? But I don't know the ins and outs of borrowing, so that would be Donna's
Right, she said that
expertise.
she did try to do it a couple of years ago, but the rates are very low right now, so it would seem to be a good time to try again.
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt to work, to try and look at that, so.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm going to just make a point about the water budget, because I worked on that with Tom. It says miscellaneous, but in his capital outlay, if there's some unforeseen stuff that happens,
Right.
that money's kind of set aside for that. If he didn't put that in there, and he was as tight as he possibly could be, and that was with any of our budgets. If we are super tight and say we didn't put any money in the reserve fund, because we said, you know what, we don't have the money, we don't do it. And then something comes up, then you're kind of stuck.
Right, he needs that comfort.
And we can't, because their budget has to balance between expenditures and revenues, they can't just arbitrarily say, we're going to increase our revenues because we have this $10,000 unforeseen expense we need.
Yep.
And if they don't have any money in their retained earnings, which currently they have about 15 and they're going to use 12, it's like free cash to balance their budget for next year. They have nothing left.
Right, so they need some kind of cushion in there.
Well, yeah, and then it's for something that's unforeseen. There's no reserve fund for them that they
Yeah.
can take from. They could borrow money from the general fund, but then they'd have to give it back, so
Right.
there's nowhere for them to really do that. Same thing would happen with the transfer station because it's an enterprise fund, so.
Okay. Good. Other information, Vicki, or questions for Vicki?
I'm not going to be here next week. I have accounting class Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday,
Okay, thanks.
so that's where I'll be. But Joyce can answer any and probably all questions if need be.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Goyette. Good evening.
So, a few things to update everybody on. The new cruiser, the 2016 Ford Explorer, is on the road probably
I
for
thought I saw that.
about the last 3 weeks or so. It's fully outfitted by Officer Dave Neal with his great talents for that work.
How do they like that versus the Crown Vics?
I was going to say, everybody's had great reviews for it.
I know
It's
there was
very-
questions
Very
in the
roomy. The all-wheel drive has been great in the minimal winter weather it's seen, that any of us have seen. But I've had very good positive reviews from the guys driving it.
Chief, how do you feel about the camera system? That's all new.
The new camera system, more great reviews. It has a lot of options that the others didn't, and it will record more information, if that makes sense. It'll give a wider angle than the past one. So anything that would have happened off to the side, off camera, this will all be on camera if anything happens on the roadside and whatnot.
Does that include audio?
Yes.
Cameras? Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep, audio, video. So a very good system. Along with a new laptop that we have in there, you know, laptops or vehicles, they're not really supposed to have moving parts, and the ones that we've had in the past are, you know, regular
Have
laptops.
a lot of moving
and
parts.
You know, after a while, hitting all the bumps and whatnot, they start to have problems. The kind we have now, the one in the new vehicle, no moving parts, and it's made for just what it's for in a vehicle. So that's been going very well, too. The B&Es. So last Thursday and Friday, we had one on Pleasant Street, we had one on Moose Brook Road, and one that was discovered later on Friday on Gun Road. So, Easthampton, Westhampton, and Northampton also had the same MO. The doors were forced/kicked in. No one was home at any of these in any of the towns, including ours. And it's believed that they're checking to see if anybody's home. These people, most of the time, they don't want a confrontation. They will knock. If somebody does answer, they'll give a story. Does so-and-so live here? You know, is this number so-and-so of a street? I mean, just anything to kind of throw you off and make you not really think that there's a problem. This person is just possibly lost and whatnot. So they just want to get in quickly and out quickly. So what we're asking people to do, and it went out on our Facebook message and on the Code Red, if it's safe to do so, don't put yourself in harm's way, but if you see the vehicle, if you get a description of the vehicle and a plate number, that would help us out a lot, along with the description of the person. Don't think you're ever bothering us. We'd rather go out and investigate something that is fine than not have somebody call and then we have another break or something else that's happening. So please call, and people have. The call volume has gone up today, and for people calling in suspicious vehicles and people, so, you know, it's good to see that. So we're just asking people to be vigilant in their neighborhoods and call us.
Did they catch the people that were breaking in, or was it all different people? Do you know anything about it?
Nobody's been caught.
Okay.
But today and yesterday, there was nothing that occurred. So right now, it's quiet. A current part-time officer has been selected to fill a full-time position that I was advised I could post for. And that position that he's filling is vacant from the retired police chief, David Silvernail. And I handed in the PCF today to the PPP, and just going to wait on them to, you know, get back to me on that. And it's slated to start for April 1st. We're down to 6 part-time officers. We'll be down to 5 in about 2 weeks when one leaves to pursue a full-time police career on another police department that he got accepted to. We'll be down to 4 in 3 weeks when we move that part-timer, and hopefully within 3 weeks for April 1st, when we move that part-timer into the full-time spot. And then we'll be down to 3 shortly after that, as another one is leaving for They work a couple other jobs, so they finally said, I need a break from one of my part-time jobs. So we're doing interviews right now for part-time officers to replenish the staffing back to where we need to be, keep the overtime costs down. Instead of utilizing the full-time officers, we can use the part-time officers. But when we get down to 3, that's really pushing it, so we need to get our numbers back up. And they'll fill in for the sick time, vacation time, and things like that. We're also looking to add a couple part-time dispatchers. One of our part-time dispatchers, who was also on the police department as a part-time officer, is the one leaving to free up some time. And so we're going to need to replace that person, and if we can get just another one, like a per diem, that can just fill in when we need for vacation and sick and shifts that pop up. Social media, our Facebook page, I've had a lot of positive feedback from people in town, a lot of positive feedback on our Facebook account from people. We're trying to keep everybody updated to what's currently happening when it comes to our police department. And as of, recent, the B&Es. And also, you were asking about how many people the code red reaches and whatnot, but looking at our stats for the Facebook post about the housebreak alert, granted, not everybody lives in town that reads it, but we had 18,211 views of that post.
Just since the code red went out?
When I posted the Facebook post on Friday,
Wow.
on Friday afternoon.
3 times as many residents as we have.
Right, that's why I said, obviously, it's not everybody in town, but, the word's getting out. A lot of people post to another person's name that live in town, so somebody else reads it and they post it to their friend. And
But that works.
so I've seen that happen. 22 News also picked it up, and they had a story on it on their page. I had put down about an internet exchange location, just put the idea out there where other police departments have a sign, an actual space in their parking lot for people to safely go from like Craigslist purchases, and instead of people going to their house, they can actually come to the police department and feel safe to do an exchange. And I had 11,764 hits on that, and a lot of positive feedback. The power outages that we recently had, on Route 10, we had some lines go down. The first post that I did in the morning when that happened, I had 763 views, and then the update, as things were progressing to fixing it, 591 people read that. So it is getting viewed. The IRS scam that we put out an alert to, 2,319 views. So those are good numbers to see. And I was just going to touch on the code red. Heather had called me asking what she thought about putting it out. I thought it was a great idea, and it did go out, and had positive feedback from that too. So that's basically it right now.
Good, thanks.
Questions for the chief?
All right.
No, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Chief? No, other chief. Next chief.
Well, let's see, we had 141 calls since January, which is up about 40% from last year at the same time. We recently raised rates for the ambulance to be competitive with surrounding towns, and just with the additional calls would be, if we could bill out and collect for them, it's about $4,000. In the real world, we'll probably collect about half of that. Our department covered about 96% of those calls. We missed 6. 2 was because the ambulance was already out on another call. 3 were just the space we have between day shift and night shift, the 6 a.m. To 8 a.m., 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then 1, we had an ambulance respond on a Saturday night that was not fully trained in fire, so we used mutual aid, who came in for a house fire that was about 30 minutes on scene, a small house, chimney fire. We had 5 paramedic intercepts, where we get a medic from another town to assist our crew. Let's see, 4 of these were not, none of these were during, I'm sorry, 4 of them were not during day crew hours. So it was a nighttime shift that used the medic intercepts. One was we had the nature of the call, just we needed additional personnel, paramedic level. All in all, we had a great month, and I'm proud of the firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics for their dedication that they showed in responding to all of those calls, including the 40% increase from last year. I think for 35 part-time, we have no full-time employees except for myself that cover all of the EMS and fire calls here in town. And I think the men and women of the department did a great job. Just to make a side note, that had we had a second shift, we would have picked up all of the missed calls with a 4-minute better response time than mutual aid and an 8-minute better response time from firefighters responding from home.
Chief, where has this been for my whole 3 years? That was perfect. That was awesome. Thank you.
Good.
Exactly the information I was looking for.
Good?
I have a question.
Sure.
In light of the dry weather we've been having, lack of snow, what kind of challenges are we going to have as it gets warmer and things get dry, and how are you going to prepare?
Well, we've recently done some work on our brush truck, just re-outfitting some of the hoses and such. It's an old truck. It's an '84 that we've kind of pieced together parts and pieces, and it's a leftover military vehicle anyway. But we've just revamped the hoses and worked on the motor for that.
Yeah.
Our trainings will include just, brush fire training, just in, as we go to approach it, just strategically and practically putting water on that fire, keeping our guys safe, men and women safe when we do it. You can never really tell what the brush season's going to be until the days get hot and people want to burn and winds pick up, and depends on moisture content during the day and such. So as always, we will do our best, and we will. I wish we could plan for things. They're always an emergency when they come to us, and so we'll just do our best with that. But I have good faith in our crew. Like I say, we put together our equipment, and we're ready for it.
And what would you recommend to the townspeople about their property and keeping?
Well, I think it's a great question. I think in general, brush fires, we are, relatively small community. There's a fair amount of, open area. Brush fires can, once they get loose, can travel faster than anyone can run. And so folks need to show due diligence just in having a water supply, being able to extinguish the fire that they create, not leaving the fire unattended, so that there's someone there at all times when you have a fire. The state regulates the hours of a fire, so a fire can only be started at 10 a.m., needs to be extinguished by 4 p.m.
And what about leaves and burning?
Yeah, you're not supposed to burn leaves. It really should just be tree trimmings. Leaves tend to produce a lot of brand, ember that goes into the air and can start a fire in another location. It shouldn't be for any kind of trash. It should really be trimmings.
No trash burning?
No trash burning.
Are we selling burn permits right now?
Yes, we are. We've tried to expand that. Burn permits, we've opened up. We are offering them anytime that the firefighters are on shift. So we are 7 days a week, 8 to 5. And as long as someone's in the station, we added a new doorbell. In the past, it was very difficult for us to ascertain if someone was at the front door. We had to leave the front door open. Considering the medications that we have in stock in the ambulances, not a prudent idea. So in lieu of also adding some internal security video, we've added an external doorbell. So if we're there, we can know that folks are there looking for us and come out to get you a burning permit if you need.
Which is how much?
Burning permits, we're running $25. That's a season burning permit. Each day that you're looking to burn, you need to have contact with someone at the fire department. Can't just leave a message on the machine. It's all regulated by the state, so you have to talk to one of the firefighters to ensure that burning is allowed for that day. All the same rules apply, sensible burning, tree trimmings, hours of burning are from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. We also offer the traditional two-day permit, which is $10, and you come to the station and we issue that, given that burning is allowed.
Do you take cash or just check?
No, we're just taking check at this point.
Just check.
In the, excuse me, the seasonal burning permit, as I understand it, I have mine, so I hope I understand it, is you can burn any day of the week as long as you contact the fire department.
Yeah. And the key is you need to talk with someone at the fire
Right.
department. Just because the state regulates it, we need to verify with the state that they're allowing it that day.
Right.
Some of the problems that we have is the state likes us to burn when it's windy out because their concern is air quality. Our concern is the fires getting away from people.
Yeah.
So you were threading a needle in that they're allowing it to burn and we're allowing it to burn. We try and be pretty generous in regards to that, and as folks are responsible, staying next to the fire, making sure they've got something to extinguish it if it gets out of control. We've been pretty lucky through the years, and hopefully we'll continue that.
I have one final question.
Sure.
What do you do when your neighbor continually burns trash?
I don't live there.
Oh, boy.
If someone is burning trash, anyone is burning trash, there's fines for that. The state is very, they can issue a ticket, a $500 fine for burning trash.
So they call you?
They would call the fire department. If it's a nuisance complaint, sometimes we get the police involved in that also. We try and go in on a personal level and talk to the neighbor just to offer information, make sure that they understand that they can't burn trash and what trash is. Some people might think trash being something other than what they're burning.
How much was the fine again?
It's up to $500, a state fine. Yep. So call the fire department, call the police department. We'll send folks in, take a look and talk to them.
Call Randall. Call Randall.
Deal with it
Give him a dump permit.
as makes sense.
Now, in a normal season, what's the last burning day?
May 1st. So it's all regulated by the state. The state opens up burning season from January 15th. They end it May 1st. They have never done any extensions, no matter how bad of a storm we had.
But they've truncated it because of the dry weather, ended it.
Yeah, what they do is they just say, the day when you call up, in many days, they'll say, oh, you can't burn.
Okay.
So they may truncate it, but they do it day by day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great.
Other questions? No? Yeah. Oh, Heather.
I just have one. The report you gave with all the numbers, is that just for the month of January? Is that January through today? Is that
January through
February?
today,
Okay, so that's up to date.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Randall.
Sacrificial burnings, yeah.
You get one a year.
One of your cows up there.
I'm digging these reports.
Good evening.
What you eat after?
Hi.
Hi.
So I don't know if Heather covered this, but we've been working on getting temporary easements for safe routes to school. That's been ongoing.
Yep. 6 of 12 or,
Okay, yep.
Okay.
She's keeping track of the numbers. I just explained the plans to people.
gotcha.
We've responded to the relatively few storms we've had this winter, and all the guys did a great job of getting them cleaned up in a efficient manner. We've been working on vegetation management, cutting branches and trees along town rights of way. We've also been filling potholes throughout town. And you might notice we've removed the tree from out in front of Town Hall. That's been removed. We're working on replacing some parts on our street sweeper, so we can get going on that when we're sure we're not going to have any more freeze-ups. The truck driver equipment operator position that was vacant for about 6 months has been filled, and the candidate started this week. On February 10th, I met with our design engineer to discuss the Glendale Road reconstruction. We met at Mass DOT in Northampton, so I hope to see some movement on that project, and realize when I say see some movement that it still may be 2018 before it gets on the transportation improvement plan. My budget presentation is Monday, and that's about all I've got.
Questions?
Chief, yeah.
Chief of the Highway Department.
Chief Randall.
Are you going to be here for the Westfield Long Road meeting?
The what?
The Westfield Old Long Pond Road? We're going to be discussing that tonight. I'd like it if you could sit here for that.
Then the answer is yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
Are we gonna grind that stump in the front? Do we have a grinder or something? A stump grinder?
It will cost money, and I'm very
Do you have
cheap.
a stump grinder you'd like to loan to the
Donate?
town?
No, I've used a guy that's in town here that was very inexpensive, so if we don't have one, I could always get a cost, and if it wasn't too much, well,
I can look at the cost if you'd like.
okay.
Thanks.
Or we can put a inverted bathtub like they do.
I
on
was
those,
actually
you know?
thinking of a nice flower pot with
planter
some
would be nice.
There you go.
Peonies in it.
That's cheaper.
Board of Health? I don't see the Board of Health.
They should be here at the next meeting.
Emergency Management's coming another time?
See.
Moving right along. Open time for the public. Get
I
in
gave
line.
you- I
Go
gave
ahead.
you a
Oh,
list.
Do you want me to, do I have to say it in order?
I would like it in,
I'm going to
just
say,
for the
I have a list. So Charlie McDonald, you're up first. We don't usually have a, are you Mr. Sullivan? You are number 3 on my list.
Good evening. I'm Charlie McDonald, 45 Rattle Hill Road. I'm a member of the Conservation Commission, and this evening I'm going to express information related to the position of being on the negotiating team for the Greenway purchase. As you know,
Wait a
since...
minute, Charlie.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to have to excuse myself if you're discussing the Greenway.
Yes. Sorry, Charlie.
heard
Charlie,
that before,
Charlie
too.
won, Charlie chews up. Anyway, the message I have this evening, if we can begin with a little history. We started this project in 2011. We applied to a state agency, the Division of Conservation Services, and in 2012, the town of Southampton received a grant to purchase the 4.25-mile corridor that bisects the town. It was appraised and had been appraised 2 times previously at $340,000. So the grant we got represented 67% of that purchase price, and it was supplemented at a warrant, I think it was November 20th, 2013, with CPC funds. So we had the money in place, and since then, the negotiations have been ongoing. It has, and now we're in 2016, and in the fall of 2015, the agency, again, the Division of Conservation Services, requested us to determine whether we could complete the purchase by July 1st of 2016, fiscal year 16. And after reviewing with our legal authorities, as well as a number of sources, we determined that we could not accomplish that. At that point, the Division of Conservation Services, the granting agency, requested us to withdraw from the program. That's essentially the message. At this point, we basically had to withdraw from the program with the encouragement, and I think it's a very strong encouragement, once we get to the point of a purchase and sale, we should reapply. But at this point, we have withdrawn from the land grant program. However, the negotiating team is continuing negotiations, and we cannot get into any details about those negotiations, but if you would like to see mirror images of kinds of documents we're trying to develop, you'll find them in the public record of Easthampton and Westfield.
It's a sad
sorry?
sad conversation.
Yes. So that's the message I had.
Well, I'm on the negotiating committee, and I know in the beginning, when I joined, I said, there's no way we want to let this grant go. But as we got more into it, and Charlie's having the contact with the Mass DOT and the railroad, that's where the issues were, it was evident that we have to. But like Charlie said, they have a strong position where they want us to reapply for the grant. So we think we're fine. So the committee's doing everything they can. Nobody wanted to pull out, but it was because of the negotiations between the Mass DOT and the railroad going so slow. It wasn't a committee issue.
No.
Okay.
We have about this many files, understanding what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think the negotiating team, both in the previous incarnation with Ed Colley and April West, in the present with Mike Bueller and Matt Christie and myself and John and Heather helps too, we will professionally look after the interests of this town.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mrs.
Charlie.
Willis, I'm going to go in order. You're going to have to come back. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, is it a question? Okay, go ahead.
Tammy Willimus, 298 College Highway, Secretary for the Friends of the Southampton Greenway. With this being said, do we have to wait until we have the purchase and sale agreement signed, or can we get the paperwork going now for this grant, knowing that it's going to take a few months to get it going?
We have been in contact with the DCS, the Division of Conservation Services. On April 1st, we will get some notice on the internet. We can immediately start the paperwork, but I think they would be most content with responding positively if we could demonstrate progress in the negotiations. But April 1st is the date in which that program will be reinitiated for fiscal year 17, and we could reapply, or at least start the paperwork and go through the checks. That's very reasonable.
I saw Kathy walk out of the room, so here she is. Hold, please. There she is. Kathy Lynch from ECAT. She's going to talk to us about the charter contract negotiations. Hi.
Hi, how are you today,
Good,
Board?
how are you?
It's good to see you all, and it's great to see you under these circumstances. So Southampton, the town of Southampton is about to enter into contract negotiations with Charter, which is it's a huge opportunity for this community to get some support financially for all the stuff that we do for the town and that we can expand doing for the town. So what I'm here today to do is we're thinking about, we couldn't find a reason to go into executive session under the current open meeting law, but what I did want to say is that we do have a hearing coming up on March 22nd. I believe it's at 6:30, Heather? 6. At 6 p.m. Here in this room on March 22nd. It is an ascertainment hearing, and I want to urge the board, and actually I just want to hand these out if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And this is just a hard copy of the ascertainment document that is currently on the town website. There's also a very quick, and I mean quick, survey to establish the need of public access for the residents of Southampton. So to everyone who's watching tonight, I would strongly urge you to go to townofsouthampton.org and just take literally 25 seconds to fill out that survey, because it does give us a database for which to approach the negotiation for the town, not me, but the town to approach the negotiation. We at Easthampton Media are here to support you. We're here to give you all of our resources to secure a good contract for the town. And I just want to urge you to approach the negotiations during the hearing from a needs base. It's not about what you want to have, it's about what we need in this community. And I think that it's pretty well spelled out. I have been working with Charlie and Heather and the town's cable attorney to formulate a strategy and so that we're in the best position that we can be in. And honestly, I don't think that we can do any worse because we're at the bottom of the barrel now, but I think we can really only go up, and that's going to be completely dependent on the support of this board. So Charter is going to want to hear about what you guys want from this contract for the town, and that's going to include services, but those services are going to be backed up by potential financial support for those services. So it's going to be really important for you guys to talk and to establish what it is that you think the community of Southampton needs. There's things that we think you need, but you have to think you need it. So, any questions?
You just have to come to the microphone, Lorna.
And I'll stick close to you. Hi.
Thing I wanted to ask is, I don't know who you are or who you represent, and I was just going to ask, would you kindly let us know that?
I'm so sorry.
Well,
Thank you.
ironically, people at home probably don't know who you are, so you have to identify yourself, too.
I'm Lorna Shirer, 4 Old County Road. Thank you.
And I'm Kathy Lynch. I'm the Executive Director of Easthampton Media. So at Easthampton Media, we've contracted with the town to provide Southampton PEG, which is Public Educational Government Access Services, Channel 191. So we put up the town meetings, we videotape and put up the town meetings, and everything in this room is a result of our endeavor to bring transparency to the town of Southampton. Beyond the government access, which I think that we could truly and deeply expand on, that would improve the town's transparency and certainly cut down OML violations. I think that we've documented that that's happened in Easthampton, and I think it can happen here too. We also provide the public with an opportunity to come in, learn how to make television in a way that's meaningful to your community, and we encourage anybody who has an even vague inkling of what they might want to do to contact us, and we'll make sure that you turn out the best product possible. And from education, the education component of PEG is sort of relegated to the schools and what they want to put out in terms of, you know, any information that they want to disseminate about the schools, about the school system, anything that's education-based. So we would cover all of those services for everyone in this room who doesn't know and everyone in the town who doesn't know. We are Channel 191 in Southampton. We administer the channel, we schedule it, we go out into the community and try to find interesting things going on, relevant things going on, and let people at home know and stay tuned in to what the community is doing. A big part of that is these meetings.
And you provide the quality management of the system in the back of the room here, too, right?
We do provide the quality management of the system in the back of the room, and we, I can say from a needs-based assessment of this room, we need some stuff to make it better.
If you can't hear us at home, you should go online and take the survey and let us know.
You should,
That would be
absolutely.
helpful.
And if you can't hear at home, that's something that I want to know about. So pick up the phone and dial 203-1360 and let me know, because we can't fix anything if we don't know about it.
Right.
So it's,
And for people that don't realize this, the equipment that we're using to broadcast in this room is the hand-me-downs from the city of Easthampton when they upgraded and we redid this building. So this is all old secondhand equipment that's been put in here.
a lot of it is, yeah.
And
I mean, I think that the relevant thing that is, we at Easthampton Media truly believe in our mission and our purpose, and that means that we believe in it for the town of Southampton too. And if we're administering your contract, we're gonna stay in line with our mission and our purpose, which is to bring these services to the town at the highest quality that we can with our funding level. And that's really the bottom line. And, you know, in an age where local news is cut off and no longer covered because corporate media has taken over and they decide what is and is not profitable, you know, this gives an opportunity to the citizens of Southampton to have a voice, to have political dialogue, to check in with what's going on in with their tax-paying dollars, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that we can establish a good level of need, and hopefully Charter will fund that for the town, because everyone benefits from that, not just you and not just me, but everyone benefits from that. So that's, thank you very much. Anyone who's a Charter customer who wants to come out and vent or talk about what Charter is as a provider is also perfectly welcome to do that on the 22nd.
So I have a question. So if a senior at Hampshire Regional, thank you, a senior at Hampshire Regional who lives in Southampton, do they have to live in Southampton, or can they just be part of Hampshire Regional? If they want to go in and use a camera to film a project they're doing, I mean, what are the parameters of people using
So
their
we
equipment?
would always give, so we don't make it prohibitive. If that's a partial answer to your question.
Yeah.
So if you lived in West Hampton, but you wanted to make a program really, really, really badly, we would show it in Southampton, because Southampton contributes a good deal of that budget to Hampshire Regional. So we wouldn't be prohibitive, but we would give preference to Southampton residents. So students who reside in Southampton would take preference over students who did not reside in Southampton.
So if, for instance, a young man at Hampshire Regional wanted to have a different program at Hampshire Regional, whether it be a class or just something that he's passionate about, he could actually film somebody in the community to emphasize his wish to make that program possible?
Absolutely, and not only that, is I would encourage him to come in and be mentored by our staff.
Okay, so he could take a camera,
Yeah.
borrow a camera.
So he's learning how to do it properly and not just, I mean, anybody can take a camera and cut something together and throw it up on YouTube, right? That's totally doable in this
You'd
day
help
and
him
age.
do that
But
and-
we would help him do that, because we would want him to not just throw up anything, we would want him to think about what he's throwing up. And so our purpose is to provide better quality and to provide access to people who don't necessarily have their own camera and their own computer to throw stuff up on YouTube.
That
And
answer your
that's it.
question?
That's good, thank you.
Any other questions, or are there any concerns about what the town might need from the select board?
No?
Like,
Kathy, on a side note, do you remember where we are on the wireless microphone?
we are waiting for that contract to get negotiated so that we can implement those systems. And that would also mean things like, wouldn't it be nice if the town meetings could go out live?
That would be lovely, or if
Because they
every
can't.
other meeting in town hall could be recorded. So that
Absolutely.
people knew what was happening
Absolutely.
at Board of Health, Board of Assessors.
Planning
Planning
board,
board,
conservation commission.
School committee meetings would be nice to see.
What would that
at
take
home.
to get the additional cameras and whatever is needed
A
to?
better contract next.
It's in the
So
contract.
I've written
it's in
a
the
pretty
budget.
robust capital budget, and what it takes is, it's really, the bottom line is, all it takes is money.
Yeah, it's all-
It really does. All it takes is money. And so the private corporation called Charter Communications has contracted and received a license from this community to sell cable services. As a result of those cable services, it's a federal requirement that they have to pay into PEG as negotiated with the town. Now, our current funding level is 1% of the gross sales of cable services. Other communities have up to 5%.
So there's some room to grow.
There's a lot of room to grow, is what I'm saying. And what Southampton could be doing pales in comparison to what they are doing right now. I mean, really, like, we could be doing so much more for the town, and I think that if you look at what we've done in Easthampton, especially with government access and transparency, it's worlds above where it was 5 years ago. Every single government meeting in Easthampton is available online. If you're interested in any topic, you don't even have to fill out a public records request. So think of the town clerk, how happy she'll be. But, you can literally just click from your home with greasy Chinese food in your underwear if you want, if that's what you want to do.
That was
and
too
you
far.
can watch, maybe too much, maybe TMI, but that's what you can do. And you can watch and check in with what's going on and how your tax dollars are being spent. And it does a lot to clarify issues when you have a question about something. I do it a lot in my own town. If I had a question of what went on with this meeting, I just watch it, and I do it at my convenience. And then I'm not calling town hall 5 times every week to find this and that out. It's nice.
What we're working on is basically having a live feed out of the North School, having that so that there's cameras there, so if the school committee has a meeting, those can be recorded. We're looking at putting cameras on the second floor of this building for the meeting room upstairs, so that when other boards meet and that can be recorded. And we're discussing putting some system into the library on East Street, so that there's going to be sites in town that we can do stuff. And we're not just talking town government, we're talking cultural events, we're talking sporting events.
Yeah.
All that stuff is totally missing right now in this town.
Maybe the parade? we get somebody.
So I think
know
there's,
about
that's something that we can
there's
do.
a lot of room for movement. I think the board needs to make sure that they have their thoughts together when we come to the ascertainment hearing, and so that, you know, we can support this project as we move forward.
And I would just encourage you to funnel all those questions and communications to Heather so that they can all be answered at the same time. And when we go into a public hearing, we can be all on the same page.
Yep.
I personally will not be here on the 22nd, but I will have somebody to represent and to field questions, definitely.
Very
Yeah.
good.
A question before you go. You said that 1% is the funding we get. 1% of what is it again?
1% of their gross cable sales.
Okay, so what is Easthampton getting or others?
Currently, Easthampton, we just executed a new contract in June of 2015. So we went from 3%, we're now at 3.5. Next year, we'll be, I believe, at 4, and then we'll go to 4.5, and we'll go to 4.5.
So there's a lot of precedent out there to get a higher percentage.
There is a lot of precedent to get a higher percentage.
So there's no reason we can't at least, I'll say, double or triple what we're getting now.
Well, the way our contract is drafting right now, we're looking at phasing in. A couple of years at 2-3%, and a few years later up 4%, and phasing in over the period of the contract.
But we're not settling for 1% to
No,
start.
nobody's,
Okay.
nobody's talking about
So,
1%,
okay.
because that doesn't work.
Oh, I agree.
It's just, you know, we're getting old material from other communities, I was gonna say junk, and putting it in because we can't afford to buy anything.
So
I
just-
believe in the last contract and license round, which was 5 years ago, the town wrote a 5-year contract and granted a 5-year license to Charter. And the result of that was a $30,000 capital expenditure, which is a restricted asset and is only for capital
Yeah.
expenditures. That paid for all of the
Right.
wiring, internal wiring in the new town hall that was just built at the time, and the installation of the cameras. The budget ran short, so we, as a company, decided that we wanted to fill in and make it work, so we donated all this equipment so that the system would work. But I think what we're looking at now is we need to go into a high-definition workflow because nobody uses analog equipment anymore, and it's getting more difficult to buy it. And it's like an antiquated, you know, like one of those old radio
You should see
units
the vacuum tubes
that now
downstairs.
everything is high definition, and we want everything upgraded to the appropriate technology so that the people in Southampton can receive acceptable levels of service.
Okay, before we start getting texts, if we increase the amount we're getting back, does this go to the bottom line of each subscriber? Or is this off a net?
It does to a certain degree. Like, for example, the capital, I know that there is a pass-through in the capital expense. I don't know what Charter's formula is for public access expense. I mean, I'm a Comcast subscriber. In my community, we're Comcast. I will say that as a cable subscriber who pays $200 plus per month, I'm happy to give $1 to my access center. Because I feel like the service that they provide to me when I want to watch that committee or this committee is well worth the $1, because I'm paying several dollars for other channels that I never watch and will never, ever tune into. So there is always a subscriber pass-through that the subscriber has to evaluate whether that service is useful or not. When you buy DirecTV, there's no pass-through and there's no benefit to your town. When you buy cable, there is a benefit to your town. So, I mean, on the level that we're all kind of pitching in and banding together, which we all have to do more and more in municipal governance, for me, as a consumer, I feel like it's reasonable. You know, other people can make that choice. And I think it's very smart for the select board to be mindful of what the consumer is paying, because the consumer is footing this bill to some degree, especially with the capital pass-throughs. But what the net benefit is to the town is huge. I mean, it's immeasurable, because there's never going to be funding that comes from the general fund to install high-definition cameras in this room. That's not going to happen.
No.
In municipal budgeting, we have other things to pay for. So,
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy.
thank you.
To the board, if you have any other questions or concerns that you want to address, if you could send them through Heather, we can make sure to address them on the 22nd. Mr. Sullivan, thank you for waiting so patiently. Come on up.
My name is Mark Sullivan,
Oh,
140...
sorry.
What?
I have it, Michael. That's all. I
My
don't know if I
name
had
is
the wrong
Mark
name.
Sullivan, 148 Pomeroy Meadow. I'm here, I guess, out of principle more than anything. I didn't like the way I was treated by the BPW director, and I didn't like the way I was treated by the town insurance company. And I can read you the letter they sent me. I mean, this insults my intelligence. I put a claim in with Zelda, who, by the way, is a very nice woman, who is very helpful. I've got a few emails here. I've got my dates. This happened. My mailbox got mowed down on Palmer Mill Road. And 11 others also got mowed down. And I called the BPW, and they said, you got the number of the truck. I said, you don't know who's plowing Palmer Meadow Road? I mean, no, I didn't run out and get the number of the truck. I just saw my mailbox go flying. And he's telling me that the bottom of my box, or the post rather, probably rotted out. I've been there 19 years, and we've had a hell of a lot heavier snow than we've had this year. And it never did that. And my post did not rot out. And I got pictures right on my cell phone right now I can show you that my mailbox did not rot out. It blew it apart, but the post is right there in the ground. And frankly, I got mad at, he's telling me, oh, well, that happens. I was plowing snow when he was in diapers. I was working for the city in Northampton, and I plowed snow for 5 years. And I know what heavy snow is. I know what it's not. I also know that if we mowed over a mailbox, we were men enough to tell our bosses about it. And some bozo went down Pomeroy Meadow Road a hell of a lot too fast. And like I said, there was 11 of them. And I asked the post office, they said that didn't happen on any other route. And he's telling me he doesn't know who was driving that truck. I think he knew who was driving that truck. Then I sent in a thing to the MIIA, and I don't know. I mean, this acts like I'm an idiot. Also towns must utilize the road for safe motorists, know that it has to be removed from the roadway, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm an idiot, I don't know that they have to plow the roads for safety. Like I said, I did it myself for 5 years, and I'm not looking for, I spent $65 in this mailbox, and I can prove that. And I'm not looking for $65. I'm looking for a compromise. It was my choice to get a $65 mailbox. I know the town of Springfield, or excuse me, the city of Springfield, Holyoke, and West Springfield reimbursed for mailboxes. Why doesn't Southampton? I paid $3,500 tax this year. And this is just a principle. It's baloney. I've been here 19 years. That has never happened. And it was not the wooden part of the mailbox. It blew out. It's a 4x4 pressure treated, and it's got one of those black boxes slipped over it. And like I said, if anybody would like to see some pictures of it, I got them right on my cell phone.
So let me just say that I was under the impression that our policy was that if we hit your mailbox and you let us know, we would be happy to replace it for you. Was that not offered?
Not at the time, no.
So the department,
That's the first I heard. Oh, actually, the other day, I talked to somebody, and that's what they said, we'd offer you a mailbox. Well, frankly, I don't want your mailbox. Cheap piece of junk. I've seen mailboxes. I used to work for an oil company that replaced mailboxes, and they were junk.
so, I mean, we don't have a policy in place that says we're going to reimburse you, as far as I can tell. If a mailbox is knocked over
Well, then I
and
can
it
go
is
to
our
small claims
fault,
court, can't I?
then, well,
You can pay even
I
more.
suppose, sir, but, we are offering to give you a mailbox, and
I
with all
want the
due...
money. I would like a compromise.
Well-
I don't want $65.
So I would
Give
say
me
that if we
$30.
gave you money for your mailbox, that would set a precedent that
Like I said,
every
we-
single person that had their mailbox knocked over, the town of Southampton would need to reimburse them money, when really our job is to be financially responsible,
Your job is to take
sir.
care of your constituents. That's what your job is.
I don't disagree with you at all, but if we're offering you a mailbox and you choose not to take it,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
really?
Well, that's my opinion, but I'm one of 5, so.
You
I've
offered
had
me
my
a piece of
mailbox
junk
knocked over.
mailbox
I
that's
have had
probably
my mailbox
$25.
knocked
I'm
over.
supposed to accept that?
I have had my
What do you
mailbox
think is
knocked
going to
over.
happen the next time they go by with a piece of junk
Okay, before
They're
mailbox?
going to go a little slower.
Before we go going too far, what kind of mailbox do we offer? The standard
A standard mailbox.
aluminum
Piece of
mailbox?
junk. I've seen them.
And you have something that's a fancier one, is that what you're
Yeah, it's
saying?
a 60, I'm not asking for $65. I chose to pay that.
Yeah,
That was my choice.
yeah,
I would like to meet you halfway. get
So what's the
reimbursed
value
for
of the one that
That's all I'm
we
asking for.
give?
yeah, I was going to try.
$25?
What's the value?
So, just to let folks know, so Maya, what he's referring to is our insurance company.
Right.
Our insurance company says whether we're liable or not. Now, the town can decide to do whatever they wish to do, but we pay good money for our insurance to protect the town and protect us under the laws of Massachusetts. Now, we do offer mailboxes. We bought them in bulk last year, so whatever they normally go for, we paid less because we bought about 50 at the time to make sure we had them. We're not required to do this. We do
Right.
this as a courtesy in order to provide constituents with a opportunity or something to catch their mail, so to speak. I mean, some towns even just do buckets. So we actually provide the mailbox. A lot of times the guys will go out and even install the mailbox. It's totally up to the board what they wish to do, but please do mind that we do have an insurance company. And sir, as much as you're upset about this whole piece, about being reimbursed, not being reimbursed, you kind of have to look at it at the other perspective too, which is other residents out there. The general fund pays for the town's insurance policy, and the town's insurance policy protects the town and therefore is an investment of the residents who are putting their tax dollars into the town's budget.
The town when it won't cover the deductible on it.
Because if
I mean, that's why they're refusing.
the town's insurance company said it's not, the town's not liable for it, so
That's
it's
the town's
protecting the
insurance
town.
company. By the way, I called this fellow and I left him a message. He didn't have the courtesy to get back to me. That's your insurance company?
I'm very sorry,
We can do
sir.
this the easy way, we can do it the hard way.
Well,
It costs about $40
Chair?
to file in
Madam Chair?
Excuse me?
the district court, and I'm gonna do it.
I'd like
So
to-
you can pay $90 for the mailbox.
What happened to the other 11 mailboxes on the street? They just took our
They're all
mailbox?
blasted down.
But I mean, did they?
I don't know if they
We haven't
complained or
heard,
not.
we haven't heard from any, so I'm
I have
assuming
no
they
idea
took
if
our
they complained or
mailboxes.
They haven't gotten to us.
I'd like to make a motion. The motion is that we do not reimburse him for his mailbox. He has filed claims with our insurance company, and that's as far as it goes.
Okay, I'll see you in court.
There's a motion on the floor. Is
You
there
can
a
pay
second?
$100 instead of $30.
Is there a second to the motion to not reimburse for the mailbox?
I'll second it for the conversation.
Okay.
Okay, you can pay $100 instead
So
of
we're in the
$30.
middle of a motion. You might want to hold tight, because if it's hard to get a second, you might be in luck.
I think I just heard a second.
You
Well,
did, but only
was
for
for
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah.
So there's a motion on the floor to not reimburse. My reason for not reimbursing is because that sets a precedent to every other town.
They do reimburse in every other town.
Excuse me. That sets a precedent from the Board of Selectmen that every time someone's mailbox got knocked over, we would give them a certain amount of money. If our responsibility is to replace the mailbox, then I think by replacing the mailbox, we're doing that. If someone chooses to have a more expensive mailbox, then that's their choice, but not the responsibility of the town of Southampton to pay for. Gentlemen?
Wow, that's a heck of an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we have a policy, we have mailboxes, so, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, sorry to hear that yours was more expensive, but once we start the precedent.
Well, it's not hard to spend more than $30 on a mailbox.
Agreed, but we have mailboxes in stock.
So we can go
And I
back
don't
and
want
forth.
one of
There's a
those pieces of
motion on the
junk
floor
around
to
the house.
not reimburse for the mailbox. There's a second. Is there any other discussion before we vote? All those in favor of not reimbursing the money, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
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 So the motion passes 3-2.
Excuse me, nay on discussion.
No, we just had discussion.
No, I didn't get a chance because you didn't look over and ask me if I wanted to say anything. So I just want to say something. I apologize if you feel that you were not addressed properly, and I know that Randall is mostly a decent guy. I don't. You know what I mean? Like he's
He sounded reasonable.
right. I mean,
But he
he's-
was talking down to me like I didn't know what a rotted post was. I said,
Yeah.
it's not a rotted post, it's a mailbox that got blown apart, and I have
Right.
pictures of it, and you won't bother looking at them, apparently.
Yes.
If you guys are gonna vote 3-2, I'm going to district court and filing a complaint and small claims, and you could pay $100 for the mailbox by the time you pay for my filing fee,
Okay. So, pardon me. So you're saying that if
and I will go.
you're saying that if you would take $30 and
Yeah,
We
I
can't-
think that's fair I
right.
choose to get a more expensive one.
I'd like to put my 2 cents in on this one.
Thank you. Please.
So I understand where you're coming from. I do. And I think that how we should be looking at it is if he goes out and spends $100 on his magnificent mailbox, that was his and he spent that money for it. We plow the roads so everybody can get to work and get where they need to go. We should not destroy anything that our taxpayers put out in their yard. So if we do happen to knock down his mailbox, maybe we can't spend $100 on you and the 11 others,
It's 65.
but we should, I think, in good faith, at least go half with him on it. Because I'll tell you, my neighborhood does not get plowed very well, So if they're knocking down his mailbox, you're getting the extra plowing that I'm not getting, because they leave half of it in my circle. So I think, that's my opinion, we should be giving him money towards it. Not a crappy mailbox, not a magnificent one, we should cut it right down the middle. But that's me.
But you're just saying you want $30.
It's
and
just
you'd
the
be happy.
principle of the thing. I picked $30 out of here, that's half the price.
Okay, so if you.
And I
if
think
you would
that's
give
fair.
$30.
I'm trying to be
you'd happy,
reasonable
Because
here.
that's the same amount, you said it was $25 to the mailbox. Would you go as low as 25? So we can stay on the, because they pay $25 for the mailbox.
Fine,
Okay,
25.
So there's
It's
so
just
there
the
was
principle.
there was a vote. The motion was made to not reimburse any money, $25 for the mailbox. There was a vote. It was 3-2.
I don't think they actually voted. Jackie was saying she wanted to comment. So we got 3 votes, and I don't think we have their vote yet.
You don't have their vote yet. So there's 3 votes to not reimburse. Ladies, how would you like to?
Well, I move that we give him 25.
You can't move. You have to vote and then make another motion.
No.
Well,
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor and a second. So if you would like to make another motion, we first have to vote on the first one, and then you can make another one.
And what is your motion for?
Motion is to not reimburse $25 for the replacement of the mailbox. There is no cash
I
reimbursement.
vote no.
No.
Okay, so the motion passes 3-2 to not reimburse any money for the mailbox. At this point, if someone would like to make another motion, now would be the time.
Okay, so I move that we reimburse him $25, the same amount of the mailbox supplied, so that we don't incur any more damages if he's going to, go further and try to sue the town.
Even in good faith,
And-
Jackie.
and
We do it in good faith.
In good faith,
Is that your motion?
yes.
There's a motion on the floor to reimburse $25 in good faith for the replacement of his mailbox. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? I would like to say that I feel the same way I felt when we had this conversation 5 minutes ago. Unfortunately, sir, I'm happy to replace your mailbox, but I'm not willing, my opinion is, I'm not willing to give you cash towards a mailbox, because if we do that, it sets a bad precedent, and we have to do that with every other citizen in town.
I would like to ask, where's this cash coming from?
It should be coming from the highway department.
But, okay.
That's me.
So there's a motion on the floor to reimburse this gentleman $25 for the replacement of his mailbox. All those, is there any other discussion?
I mean, I have to go on the advice of our insurance agency, too. I mean, if it was me, I'd be up there, too, but I got to look from the town's point of view, I think. That's where I'm coming from.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of reimbursing this gentleman, Mr. Sullivan, $25 for his mailbox, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. The motion does not pass 2-3. Sir, I'm sorry about your mailbox.
Okay, I'm sorry about the $100 it's gonna cost in small claims court.
Op-
Pay my fees.
Open time for the public. Is there anybody else who's not on my list? Please make a line, and we'd be happy to hear from you. Mrs. Walunas.
Hi, Tammy Williams, 298 College Highway. I just want to say that with the charter negotiations, they have helped out tremendously with the Friends of the Greenway activities that we've done, and they've also helped out tremendously with our Girl Scout troops, Paul being one that worked with our girls. So they do offer a lot of things that are very, very positive for our town.
They being charter or
It was charter. It was.
charter itself?
Easthampton Media.
Easthampton
Easthampton
Media.
Media.
Okay, so not charter.
So it would
Easthampton
be
Media.
beneficial for you to come on March 22nd and voice your voice of support, or perhaps write a letter that could be read into the record, in case you have 4 other meetings to attend. Is there anyone else that would like, Mr. Rancourt, please, front and center.
George Rancourt, White Loaf Road. Back to this gentleman's problem and the mailbox. Isn't the reason we have an insurance company to cover these things, these incidents?
They-
Is that what the insurance company is for, or is it just to cover, or you know what?
You know, if they file a claim, the insurance company says whether or not we're liable for that, and in this case, they said we're not liable. So as a courtesy, we offer a mailbox. The insurance company is not saying that we have to pay for the mailbox.
That's not the same thing, all right? If the gentleman any one of us had a nice mailbox, some of these plastic ones, it gets taken down, mashed, you're not going to get away with a $25 mailbox. But that's not the point. In my years of tangling with insurance companies, and I've only had this incident once or twice, and one of them was in Easthampton. The insurance that we buy is just to cover ourselves. And the answer from these insurance companies is usually negative. Believe me, I was turned down really well one time, and the only way to beat them is I threaten them to go to Superior Court with it, because that's where you go with these things. You end up in Superior Court, and I also get $30 an hour for my time. From the time I leave my house to the time I went to the court, I was reimbursed. And I had what was just a pothole problem in Easthampton on East Street. Demolished the front end of my car. This thing is not as bad, but that's why we have insurance. At least I thought that's what we have. Obviously, a plow hit this guy, hit his mailbox, and we're telling him, no, we're not going to pay for it. Makes for a kind of a sour note, doesn't it? And if there was 11 other people, maybe they took care of it. I don't know. But this gentleman is
He's not
upset,
happy with us.
to say the least. And that's why we have insurance to cover these things. But the insurance will turn you down first note.
I don't think any of us are happy with having to say no, but from the town's point of view, that's, you know, we go with the insurance company. And Mr. Kemp wasn't here, so we didn't hear his side of the story either.
If we didn't have insurance, let's say we didn't have the insurance company, just for the heck of it, right? We have no insurance, then what would we do? Turn a guy down?
Then we'd be self-insured and we'd make the decision, but we have insurance.
Yeah.
We have insurance.
And that's the reason.
And like I say, insurance companies, the first thing that comes to mind is no.
But even on your home insurance, you go and say, this is damaged, I want to have it covered. And
Well,
some
yeah,
insurance
but
policies cover it,
this time
some
here,
don't.
Apparently it was torn down completely.
Again, I'm not sure, yeah. Yeah. No, we don't.
He's upset.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I thought that's why we carried insurance, life insurance, accident insurance, and whatever else.
Thanks, George. Anybody else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Going forward. Annual town meeting, article deadline. For annual town meeting, a warrant needs to be posted no later than 7 days prior to the annual town meeting by law. The moderator had spoke to the Board of Selectmen a few meetings ago and requested that we consider a deadline for the articles due to the budget calculations and the need to have articles submitted, typed, reviewed by council, and approved by the Board of Selectmen. I would recommend that the Board of Selectmen ask all departments to have articles turned into Heather no later than April 29th. That gives us at least that 2 weeks to go over them and look at them and approve them or not approve them and go forward. So I would accept how does the board want to proceed?
Is the 29th giving us enough time?
That's what I was going to say. That's 2 weeks isn't much, especially if we were meeting every 2 weeks at that point.
Yeah.
You would like to change that date?
Well, 2 weeks isn't enough to review the articles, or 2 weeks is not enough to put them on? Because here's the problem you run into. We're still meeting with departments out to April 11th. So when you're talking about April 29th at the deadline, and it doesn't seem like there's that much time, that's still only, 18 days for us to finish the budget. And if you remember, we've ran into times in years past where we're finishing the budget 2 days, a day before the Board of Selectmen finalizes the warrant. So as much as I can understand wanting to have things out ahead of time, unless someone can do a magic thing with the budget and get all the numbers in and
I mean, you still have
taken care of.
departments that haven't turned in their budgets.
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
But that's where we're at, so if
We can't let those departments push the budget process.
you
I mean,
you
we
can't,
either-
but it's the nature of the beast. I mean,
But if they don't have them in, develop a zero-based budget or a level-funded budget for them and submit it, and they have to live by it. I mean, they have plenty of notice and time, and some departments, historically, trust me, I know, just won't do it.
so how would the board wish to proceed? Do you want to change that date? Do you want to keep the date? Do you want to look at a calendar?
If we went to April 25th, that's a Monday, instead of the 29th, it gives us at least that week.
And we could have a meeting on the 26th.
Yeah, but that's, if the articles aren't due to the 25th, I'm not going to have them ready by the 26th.
Right.
for your review, because we get
Not talking
them.
about reviewing them, she wants them submitted to her to be typed, reviewed, submitted to council.
So she needs them by,
29th, turned into her by 29th, so we won't see them till after that.
You can have them, it's up
So
to the
if they're
board how
turned-
they wish to proceed, but
so if they're turned into her on the 25th, it gives her more time to take and put it together.
Yeah.
This is a buffer for her.
Okay?
Jackie?
When do we see them?
We won't see them until she gets them put together, so it'll be the following week.
I
But
think
at
you're
least
not
it-
going to see, when's the annual town meeting?
the 17th.
But at least it gives her that week to put it together, so then when we meet the following week, she's had a week of time to,
So can you have them to us on the 3rd, if you get them on the 25th?
fifth?
I can tell you on the 26th.
That's a fair. Well,
Well,
why
I don't know what's coming in, John. I mean, if everyone and their brother submits 4 articles, and if we have, resident petitions and everything else, who knows?
But-
I don't disagree with the 25th, because you're always going to have a late straggler.
Yeah, I mean, and the point is at least it gives everybody one point in time,
Yeah.
because we're not going to impose a penalty if they're late, are we?
No.
Doesn't go on the articles.
Okay.
We don't ever impose a penalty, so.
Well, excuse me, as long as we have time, because Robert is so kind to have the informational meeting, so he explains what each article is about, and that if they're set in stone, then we can talk about them, because we do that on camera. We didn't this year because he had a family issue, and so I just would like enough time so we can present him to
That's why I'm
public.
pushing it back.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 25th is what we're talking about now? If anybody would like to make a motion to have the deadline for warrant articles be submitted no later than April 25th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion?
Now, it says no later than, obviously, earlier will be encouraged.
Plus,
Yeah,
Nice, yeah.
Very nice little
yeah, but
star.
as people are,
Yes.
they'll wait.
Could we add to that motion that we could send an email out to,
Oh, everyone will
thanks.
know. I'll send it out.
so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? There's a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Next, we have a conversation about the second shift Proposition 2.5 override, whether to include or not include this at the annual town election. Does the board wish to proceed with moving forward with placing this item on the warrant for the annual town election? And if so, how much does the Board of Selectmen wish to include in this request?
Well, at the last town meeting, although it's timed out, it was for 135 and it was approved, so I would go in that same direction.
And so if you put it on the election, which is May 2nd, is that what we're talking about? If you put it on for the 2nd, then it still has to go back to town meeting on the 17th because we timed out.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
So I'll make the motion, we put it on for 135,000 as explained at the last town meeting.
Then I'll second it.
is there any other discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. Next, we have an,
Before you go, do we need to make a motion to have it on the town meeting after that, 17th?
No, we'll just put it on. You
It'll
guys
have to
can
be
vote
a
on it when it
warrant
gets to the
article.
articles.
It'll be a warrant article,
Okay,
so
so I
we
just
can-
want to make sure we don't miss that.
And then for some reason, if it doesn't pass at the election, you guys would just pass over it when you get to annual town meeting.
Okay.
we have tree cutting, an update on tree cutting behind the town hall fire station.
Oh, my. So, Charlie, you want to get up there? About, what was it, year and a half ago or so, we met with Conservation, we got all the permits lined up and everything else. They started doing the clearing up there, and then we had a major ice storm, which made it unsafe to do any work. So they pulled the equipment out, and the feeling was, we'll wait until this winter, so when the ground freezes again and we don't disrupt the land, we can just finish this job. I don't know if anybody noticed, but the ground didn't freeze this year. Then, 2 days? We weren't quick enough, evidently. It was on a weekend. So, we have a time clock. If I remember right, conservation permits are good for 2 years. So, I met with the logging company, and they asked if we could take and put some stone down where the landing is so that the logging truck wouldn't get stuck. that is not in a wetland buffer area. Randall needs direction from this board if we want to do this. And they are also willing to take the trees that are on Bray's property that are leaning over the town driveway in the back here down, but they would like us to take the chain link fence out of the way so they can do that. Mr. Bray is perfectly comfortable with us taking those trees down, because if we don't, we'll have a storm and they'll be down anyway, so.
You want to put stone down to get the truck? Is that what you
Just,
just said?
just where the logging truck needs to back in.
Where are you going to get the stone from?
That would be Randall getting it from his sources.
How much is that going to cost? Well, I guess, given Vicky's conversation, the last thing I want is another bill, and how do we pay it that came from us?
Now, you're,
No. No, they never came out. We were supposed to coordinate, things got messed up, and it didn't happen. I'm thinking one truckload of stone is probably going to stabilize that. The cost on that would be what, $400 or something like that for stone?
What happens if we don't do that right now?
We don't get any work done.
What work can we do without any money to build anything?
You mean the logging operation, they'll do.
I'm just saying,
But-
if it just sits there and we don't have a direction for that area right now anyway, then why spend the money on it right now?
Because we had negotiated with Mr. Bray to clear his property as well as our own, and that hasn't been done. And we still have to clean the mess up that's on our property. And the idea was to finish the task. So even if we're not using the land for anything, we'll at least want to clean it up and be done with it.
I guess I
So,
want to know how much it's going to cost first.
I don't know. No, it's not a,
I mean, your winter roads and your expense budget is doing well, so.
So the townspeople can't hear a word that's going on, right? You guys are talking back and forth, and
I mean, the reality of it is we're in the middle of a process that we cannot complete without basically giving them an area that they can park the truck to lift the logs up and drive away with them. For the short amount of money it would cost to take and drop a load of stone just to stabilize that parking area, I think we should just move ahead and get it done. It'll also benefit the town because it'll take care of the tree hazard that's hanging over the driveways. So we're still getting more services for very little money.
I guess question is, Randall, do you think you can accomplish it within your budget?
We'll have to check, but I think so.
Okay, so if he thinks he can, I'm okay with it.
I just want to get this job done, to be quite honest with you.
So is there a motion?
I move to authorize the Highway Department to stabilize the parking area for the logging truck and to take the chain link fence down from the, I'll call it the right side of the swale up the hill. We want to leave the chain link fence where the deepest hole is so nobody falls in there.
Are we putting the fence back again after?
No, I don't see a reason to.
No? Okay.
I was there because this was a schoolyard. It's not a schoolyard anymore.
I'll second it.
Is there any other discussion?
yes, I would just like to have an itemized list of what materials we'll have to pay for in order for this to happen. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have Westfield, Old Long Pond Road, and Old County Road. We haven't heard about this for a while. So the last time we heard about this potential development in Westfield that may impact the town of Southampton several months ago. Since that time, the attorney working for Westfield has left for a new job, and a new mayor has taken over. So to ensure that the residents of the town of Southampton's interests are best met, would the Board of Selectmen wish to instruct Heather to set up a meeting with Westfield on this matter and see the direction they are headed, and other possible impact for our town, or would you like to sit on it?
I reviewed the material that was given to the town by a resident, and I feel that we need to take and get a little bit more in-depth with the city of Westfield to see what the city of Westfield is actually planning instead of secondhand information. So yes, I would move to have Heather contact Westfield and open up line of communications on this.
I'll second it.
Is there other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're going to talk about timesheets.
Good job, Randall.
There's been some issues back and forth about salaried employees filling out timesheets. Some write salaries, some write their hours that they work. Heather and I talked about this, and I said, we talked about this before. We've probably talked about it 3 or 4 times. From what I can remember, I thought we had voted to not require salaried employees to write hours in and out. So I don't know whether or not did you go back and find the vote?
I didn't go back and find
Okay,
the vote,
so I
but
just
that
want-
is correct. That's what you guys had
Okay,
voted
so
on.
we did vote that salaried employees do not need to write time in, time out. They can just write salary, and we would be okay with that. Are we all still at that point?
I agree. So move.
You don't have to move anything, just want, can we move on? Any
I'd
discussion,
rather
anybody want to
record it
change?
now
Right,
and make
okay.
sure it's
So
recorded.
salaried employees can write salary, and that can be the end of it.
Except if they take earned time, they have to put
Right,
the earned time in.
right.
Just want to
Thank you.
clarify that, yeah.
Okay. Work at home policy. So the current Board of Selectmen policy prohibits employees from working from home. However, the question becomes whether or not that's realistic for salaried employees from taking phone calls, sending emails, and working on reports. I will say that the Personnel Policies and Procedures Board has worked diligently on the new bylaws, and they do address this. So the new proposed bylaw would state that non-exempt employees are not permitted to work from home in lieu of reporting to their place of work. It does not state exempt employees, because we recognize the fact that salaried employees may need to pick up the phone when they're at home. They may need to work from home on the weekends, and so the new bylaw would make it much more clear, allowing exempt employees to work from home as needed, but not allowing non-exempt employees to take work home with them.
And I think what we're getting at is exempt employees can work at home, but just not in place of their
Not
normal
in-
hours.
And it does say that.
Yeah, right.
It does say that.
I just wanted to make sure.
So you can't, spend your Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 at home instead of being here.
Yep.
So do you wish to adopt this revised policy into practice moving forward? Do you want to wait for it to come out in the bylaw?
I'd like to just adopt it and keep moving.
So would you like to make a motion to say that the working from home policy would state that non-exempt employees are not permitted to work from home in lieu of reporting to their place of work?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for the discussion. My question is, as long as this doesn't create an issue with the new PPPB policies, because we're just finalizing those now, so.
It's in line with the new
Okay, so
policy.
That's fine.
Jackie?
I'd like to see the policy written out before I agree, just to make sure that we're not, yeah, okay.
I checked with Art before, because we took out normally, because we don't want non-exempt employees working from home. There might be more to it, so I'm showing you this, but there might be a little more.
Should we wait till we get the whole thing before we?
Well, this was discussed at our joint board and PQB meetings
right.
over a couple
Well, if you feel
meetings.
it's the same thing as what we discussed.
I feel confident that it's
Yep.
right in line with exactly what we discussed there. So there's a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have a PCF for Lisa Shea in the circulation desk at the library, an increase in wages. The position was rescored by the PQB last week. The Finance Committee signed off on it last night, and now we have it here today. There's a job description attached. It's a circulation librarian. There's a a pay scale associated with it, which puts this position, which has similar job responsibilities as other administrative duties in town hall, put the new job, oh my gosh, the new rate of pay is in line with those other departments. So it would go, her old rate was $10.16, and she would move to $15 an hour. Is there a motion to sign?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there other discussion? All those in favor of signing the PCF,
I,
say aye.
Aye.
Aye. have minutes to approve from February 23rd. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Skipping the payroll warrants on me.
Yeah. the payroll
Oh,
bill
sorry. Well, here's the minutes in case you want to look at them.
I've seen them.
Jackie,
Do you
you
want
need
to look
'em?
at the minutes, or you've seen them?
And in the meantime, if you want to read the warrants, feel free.
You want me to read them off? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, you want me to do them all at once here?
Yep.
Okay, we have 6 warrants. One's PD 16-35 for $41,782.88. PD 16-35A for $145,192.34. PD 16 I forgot the word, sorry, dash 37 for $41,535.41. P-16-37 for $244,165.80. W-16-36 for $557,991.32. And PD 16-33 for $42,972.79.
Is there a motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is Matt here for executive session?
Who?
Matt Christie is always here. Matt, are you here because we're going to? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. Just want to make sure you didn't want to add something to open time for the public. Sneak in the end, no. Okay. Our next Board of Selectmen meeting is March 22nd at 6 o'clock. That's the cable ascertainment hearing. The town caucus, for all of those willing and able and excited to run for a town office, is March 15th. So if you did not already fill out nomination papers for a particular position and you would like to be nominated, you can do so at the caucus at 7 o'clock. Yes?
I have on my agenda a one-day beer and wine.
Yeah, you have an old version.
old
I was
version.
really excited about
That's from
that, so
last
we
week
did it
and we already
last
did
time.
it.
That's why you need your iPad.
They have an annual town election on May 2nd for all of those people who are willing, able, and very excited to run for town office at the town hall. The annual town meeting is on May 17th, and we will be moving in. What?
Can we approve the minutes?
Oh, sorry. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jackie?
I wasn't here, though.
That's okay. Did you read them?
Yeah, aye.
Aye, okay. We're going to move into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, Number 2, Number 3, and Number 6, and we will not be returning to open session by roll call vote, please. Moulton, aye.
Mackey, aye.
Martin, aye.
Here's aye.